Here's Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, the host of RinkWide Vancouver. They were busy this weekend unpacking a couple of games, including a ton of storylines coming out of this Washington game. He joins us now. Hi, Jeff.
Good day. Is Joe LaBate a plug-in hybrid for the Vancouver Canucks? Does that meet the criteria?
He's a diesel, I think. I think he's diesel.
We were talking about Joe LaBate, and if you've missed this, the Canucks have recalled Joe LaBate. He last played a game for the Vancouver Canucks 8+ years ago, Jeff. We are wondering what is the longest any player has gone between games for the Vancouver Canucks, and if Joe LaBate could qualify if he gets into one here this week. So someone's going to have to do some digging for us.
Bobby Schmotz is the best I've come up with so far.
That was a good pull, Blake. I like that one.
Yeah. How long for Bobby?
It was like 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did Trevor go between his?
Just 3.
Yeah. Small potatoes. Jeff, they lose Filipino on that hit from Tom Wilson. Jonathan Lekremaki also leaves the game. They go to IR. I feel like they might have won some battles this weekend, but lost ground in the war. Where are you at after the absences of these two forwards?
Yeah, and I saw your poll question about, was it a dirty hit? And I suppose, to me, there are two distinct lines of thinking on the collision. One is, was it late? Yeah, probably. Should it have been a minor penalty? Probably. Does a minor penalty do Filipino any good in the aftermath? Does a minor penalty do any good to the Vancouver Canucks in the aftermath? They won the hockey game. And is a minor penalty any deterrent for Tom Wilson? No. Right. So put that aside. And unfortunately, there cannot be a single person that watches this team, covers this team, that didn't, in the pit of their stomach, see this day coming. And we all hoped that it wasn't going to happen on the 6th game of the season.
Yeah.
But there was going to come a point in time where Filipino absorbed serious contact, and then it was, how would he fare? And the answer was not very well. And he looked to be in distress on the ice, and now he's on IR. And I guess I'm bracing for this to be a lengthy absence. I don't know that. I'm not reporting it. But given his history and just sort of how woozy he looked then, and, this is sort of worst case scenario, that this is a guy that should be in the prime of his career and yet was always going to be one knock away from being knocked out again. And at some point, and I'm not saying this is the one, but at some point, it might be the last hit that he can absorb as a professional hockey player. And you feel for the guy, but it is a contact sport. And so should the hit have ever happened, it's debatable, but it was inside the arena, literally. He was on the ice. You have to know when Tom Wilson's out there on the ice, these things happen, even if they're a split second late. And so just feel for Filipino, hope the very best, because he was playing so well for the Canucks and had earlier in the hockey game when he, the drive to the next sequence that led to the Tyler Myers goal. His speed has been on display throughout. He's looked good. He's looked healthy. He's looked happy. And then boom. And you just knew in the back of your mind that this was always a possibility. And so to happen, 6 games, not even, early in the 6th game of his season. And now it really puts the Canucks, who are already in a predicament at center ice, over a barrel completely. And for this organization that didn't want to pay market rate during the offseason to upgrade at center ice, there are red flags and alarm bells left and right. Now, every team in the National Hockey League realizes how desperate they are. If the prices were high to begin with, they are now exorbitant. They are through the roof for the Vancouver Canucks to try to address their depth at center ice.
With this happening so early, it feels naive, doesn't it, that they went forward with this plan?
Yes. And again, I think some of it comes back to they just didn't like what they saw on the open market in the summertime. But Jack Roslovic was sitting there up until a week ago, and for the Oilers to scoop him up at $1.5 million now, you wonder. But again, Filipino reported to camp in good shape and looked good through camp in the preseason, and so I think they rolled the dice, but just living on the razor's edge, obviously, because of what happened. And so, you can put another body in the lineup, but with what they've got internally in the organization, they're not replacing the skill set of Filipino. And so really interesting to see where it goes from here.
What's up with Lekremaki, best you can tell?
Yeah, I was surprised to watch the replay of the hit with Matthew Roy a couple of times, and it looked fairly innocuous. Like, it looked like the kind of collision you see 100 times in a hockey game, and yet looked to be favoring his shoulder. And again, this is an unscientific diagnosis, but certainly was clutched, upper body and left the game, didn't return. And so here's a guy that sat out the previous 2 games. Brock Besser's not available. Opportunity knocking for Lekkerimäki, and he doesn't get through the first period either. And now for him to be on IR, and again, the Canucks haven't provided any more update than that. So we know it's a week at the very least, and wouldn't be surprised again if this one turned out to be a little bit longer. This is life in the big leagues. These are big men that play the game hard, and when you collide, even if it looks like an innocent collision, if you're colliding with a guy that's over 200 pounds, some damage can be inflicted. And so that seems to be what happened here for Lekkerimäki, and that is really unfortunate too. If there are some silver linings in this, Teddy Bluger's name hasn't appeared anywhere on IR or otherwise. It's an off day for the Vancouver Canucks on Monday. But you hope that he's okay after scoring and then leaving the game with 6 minutes to go. And Adam Foote did say post-game that Brock Besser wasn't expected to be away for too long. And when you think of the start that Besser's had and the shootout winner the other night, he's riding it and feeling confident about his game. And they certainly will welcome him back, and they're going to need him back here to continue to do those types of things for the hockey clubs. So my goodness, so many moving parts here. And then with the recalls, some of that seems like some cap gymnastics, and Victor Mancini gets trapped now in this new AHL rule that he can't be recalled until a game in Abbotsford. And Abby doesn't play till the banner goes up on Friday night, the home opener for the Baby Canucks. So lots of moving parts. And through all of this, guys, Derek Forbort has kind of gone missing in action. He just remains on IR with no explanation from the hockey club. He played the first 2 games, and I don't know. And this is what happens when they go out on the road and there just isn't a whole lot of question askers out there with the hockey club. So we may not get an update on Derek Forbort till they get back off the road trip here.
And really disappointing this early in the season. They use the lie of maintenance days when it was clear he was injured. He's obviously injured now. They put him on injured reserve. Unbelievable. But, it's not often the silver lining to a day like this is a win. They got 3 wins to start this road trip.
2 wins on the weekend.
3 going back to Thursday, obviously, in 64 hours. That's the good news, and they're not going to go and try and lose these last 2 on the road trip, but they do have house money now. A 3-2 road trip for this team in this position is just fine. The good news is they've already got those 3. It's all gravy from here on in if they can muster a point or 2.
Yeah, it is wild what a difference a week can make, because last Monday was Thanksgiving. That was that loss to St. Louis. They were 1-2, and there were some pointed questions being asked about puck possession and ability to win battles and ultimately score goals and all those types of things. And we asked Thatcher Demko before they went out on the road trip about getting this thing headed in the right direction. He sort of scoffed and said, "We are headed in the right direction." Maybe he got a little crystal ball there in his mask or his pads or somewhere, because all of a sudden, 3 straight wins. They're feeling better about themselves. Angst in the market, I think, has reduced considerably. And look, they've been plucky. It's not the blueprint you want, falling behind 2-0 the way they did in both Dallas and Chicago. But when you get the goaltending that Demko and Lankinen delivered over the weekend, it stabilizes things. You're not out of it. And we've seen so many 2-goal deficits overcome in the National Hockey League in recent years. And I think that builds some belief for games down the road now that if they fall behind, and they will, they'll trail 2-0 in other games, that they've got it in them to come on back. And so that second period in Dallas, we talked about it on Friday. Chicago, they got better as the night went through. And there were certainly challenges up front there with the travel and the back-to-backs. And then obviously Washington. I mean, we've all been wondering about starts. They got it right. It took them 6 games, but boy, did they get it right with the start. And EP40 getting his first less than a minute into the hockey game. That gets him into it. I think it probably gets his teammates into it that way. And there was no let up. And I really was impressed with the way that they just stuck to the task here. And, the Wilson hit didn't get them running around or derailed or spooked in any way, and just continued to pour it on. So full credit to them. I mean, short-staffed, and yet those were some pretty impressive victories. And as you said now, you can't sweep a road trip. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you can't sweep it if you don't get the first 3. And now you go to Pittsburgh and Nashville. Pittsburgh's all right. I mean, they're 4-2, and their stars, Malkin and Crosby, both off to nice starts, but they're the Penguins. I don't think that's an impossible task there, and Nashville kind of spinning its wheels. So not out of the realm of possibilities, but all they can focus on is the Pittsburgh Penguins and icing a lineup, and we don't really know what that's going to look like until they hit the ice for morning skate on Tuesday in Pittsburgh.
For those who needed a response to Tom Wilson, Jeff, you would say what? ...
Yeah, the Canucks are one of about 31 other teams that really don't have much of a response to. He is a unicorn. He is. He plays the game that way. He's always played it on the line, like towing the line, sometimes crosses it. And again, a minor penalty there, big deal. By the way, Tom Wilson only has one minor penalty all season and leads the Washington Capitals in scoring. So he's showing his value to them when he stays on the ice. But look, I'll give a guy like Linus Karlsson's not going to square up and fight Tom Wilson, but I thought that was a pretty good teammate. Got him, wrapped him up as best he could there. Is it a massive statement? No, but for a guy that's fighting for a spot in the lineup and trying to prove that he's an everyday National Hockey Leaguer, there are times you have to get uncomfortable. And I think that was one of them for Linus Karlsson. And, Victor Mancini fighting Brandon Duhaime. I think that was more a result of it being 4-0 in Duhaime. That's out of the role he plays, right? He's a bit of a troublemaker out there, and he's trying to spark his hockey club. And Mancini, who has never had National Hockey League, I thought he acquitted himself pretty well. He's a big dude. And as we said, he's down in Abbotsford now, so he's not going to get an opportunity to do that a whole lot more. But I think that was young guys trying to show that they're in this, that if it has to be that Wolfpack mentality, if you will, then guys were willing to step up and stick up for teammates. So credit to those guys in that moment.
So with Mancini going down after not playing a whole lot, played just 7 minutes, Pierre-Olivier Joseph's got to be ready to go for tomorrow. Or, Jeff, tell us everything you know about Jimmy Schultz.
He's a 30-year-old Minnesota native who has played a grand total of 9 games in the National Hockey League, 8 of them for San Jose after making his debut for the Vegas Golden Knights. We all remember his debut for the Golden Knights, don't we? Yeah. I think that's more cap gymnastics and I'd have to look at salaries and those types of things, but I think P.O. Joseph, he's taken a couple of warm-ups here. He practiced last week in a non-contact jersey, but it sounds like he's ready to go. And a former Penguin, I'm sure he would be chomping to get an opportunity to skate against his former team. So I think it probably is as simple as that. But again, we'll wait and see if there are corresponding moves here as they try to flesh out who's healthy enough and who's able to go. So I would think that P.O. Joseph slides in there. I thought it was really interesting, guys, over the weekend, both the Chicago game and Washington, that the Canucks essentially went with 4 defensive pairings instead of 3. They didn't play DPD and Mancini together, even though they were listed as the third pair on the depth chart. Mancini played most of his shifts with Quinn Hughes, and DPD got most of his shifts with Filip Hronek. And so you had Hughes, Hronek, you had Pettersson, Myers, and then you had Hughes, Mancini, and Hronek and DPD. I got to make sure I got all that right. And they're out on the road. These are young guys. They really can't shelter them. And so rather than throwing them out there the second night of back-to-backs in Chicago and against a Washington team that has some firepower, I thought it was fairly crafty coaching by Adam Foote and Kevin Dean, if that was their solution to get these guys the ice time, while also making sure that they weren't putting the team in a tough spot with a couple of rookie defensemen out there in their own zone. So we'll see. P.O. Joseph's got close to 200 NHL games under his belt, a little bit more experience there, but he hasn't played since the preseason, so he would probably have to knock a little bit of rust off. So I'm kind of curious to monitor the usage and the deployment of the 6 defensemen, if in fact that's the way they go against the Penguins. I
feel like we should have an animation and intro now for the EP report. What'd you make of the weekend for Elias?
Scored a goal, Blake.
Pettersson. He was
in quick succession off the hop in Washington.
And then caved in the rest of the game statistically, barely able to defend the onslaught of shot attempts from the Washington Capitals when he was on the ice. And yet the fact that he scored the goal was great. He took some shots on the power play as well. Sort of a spinorama attempt on a backhand, which was, attempt at Deeks. And then I thought on the Dallas game, really showed the want to take guys on one-on-one, which to me is as heartening as anything else. But it's a mixed bag right now for Elias Pettersson. What did you make of it?
Yeah, look, he may turn out to be the highest paid 50-point guy in the National Hockey League when all is said and done. 3 points in 6 games isn't it. But yes, he scored a goal against the Washington Capitals, and so can he back that up? But he also blocked 3 Alex Ovechkin shots in the dying seconds, and in Chicago, was it Chicago or Dallas? They were together, but there was the other shot. I think it was Dallas, late in the Dallas game as well. He's doing those things defensively that he's always done, but he's also getting paid close to $12 million. And Jack Eichel's got 15 points already, and Nathan McKinnon's. I'm reading stories about early season Hart Trophy bids. These are his peers, and the offense still hasn't arrived for Elias Pettersson. Now, some of that is that this team ultimately isn't going to score a ton of goals. And so the idea of a 100-point season, that may be out the window, but I think a lot of people felt like for us to declare him back, he had to be a point-a-game guy or thereabouts. Well, he's got some work to do in that regard. This isn't me carving him, and I don't want this to be seen as me carving him, but I do wonder if this is who he is now, and you're going to get a solid two-way game, and there's going to be some points. There'll be some nights where the power play clicks a couple times and he ends up getting, two assists or a goal and a helper. But it really has been a point here and a point there, and he was one of the last regular forwards to put a puck in the net. So it's hard to be doing cartwheels and singing his praises. But at the same time, I do want to point out some of the other areas of the ice in which he is contributing. And to your point, like, if it's baby steps, then knifing through the defenders in overtime in Chicago, like that looked a little bit more like goal.
That's right.
EP40 and doing the thing around Sandin with the puck through his skates and getting a backhand off. The fact that he's thinking that way and able to attempt some of those things, like that's all promising. But for me, I'm a bottom line guy, and his bottom line has to improve. And I think that's part of why, again, when we talk about deployment, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Teddy Blueger didn't play the final 6 minutes of the game and still played more than Elias Pettersson in a game in which Philip Hedl left in the first period. And as I look back through the ice time and the shifts, Elias Pettersson only killed 20 seconds of shorthanded time on Sunday in Washington, where he had been used a little bit earlier as one of their primary penalty killers. Teddy Bluger's back, so Bluger took on. But to me, one of the real revelations of the first 6 games, guys, is Conor Garland has opened this massive lead in overall ice time among Vancouver Canucks forwards, and he's earned every second of it. But a big part of that is he has been their most used penalty killer by a long shot, 4.5 minutes more than any other forward on the hockey club for Conor Garland. So on top of everything else that this guy does for this team, he has stepped in and become really their primary penalty killer as well. And of course, Bluger didn't play the first handful of games, so that describes some of the difference there. But I mean, what can't Conor Garland do for this hockey club right now? Like, it's a joy to sit back and watch every single shift. His motor's always run, but he is an impact player on every shift. He's like dictating the way things are going, picks the pocket of Alexei Protas, who's like 8 feet tall, on that PD goal to open the scoring. Conor Garland's in the groove. This guy has continued to improve through the years, and I think he's playing his best hockey in the National Hockey League here to start this season.
Yeah, 22 minutes, 20 seconds. Sherwood played 23-15 in this hockey.
Look way down that list to find Pettersson.
Staggering totals.
Those two guys, Matt, played over 9 minutes of the third period.
Oh, my goodness.
Trying to protect that lead. So for Kiefer Sherwood, a career high by more than 3 minutes. He didn't eclipse his previous high. He smashed it
Demolished
by 3 minutes. So, yeah.
When we talk response or lack thereof, Jeff, they had Joseph LaBate, the pride of Burnsville, Minnesota, in the lineup yesterday. Something might have been done. He shares a hometown with Brock Besser, and I've looked it up here. March 28th, 2017, he partook in a 4-1 loss to Anaheim as a young Canucks prospect, a fourth-rounder in the 2011 draft. Remind us who Joseph LaBate is and what he does out there, Jeff.
Yeah, he's a big body, without a doubt. And I think they list him at like 6'2", 210 or 215. And re-signed with the Canuck organization. He played those games, as you mentioned, got back into the National Hockey League last year in Columbus and played 6 games for the Blue Jackets. Still looking for that first NHL goal. He's 32 years of age, so I don't know how many more looks he's going to get, but he probably looked around and thought, hey, good things happening in Abbotsford. If I end up there, it's not a bad place to be. And with this depth chart, maybe there is an opportunity. And so the opportunity may have arose and arrived for him. Remember, too, in the preseason, he fought a couple of times. They put him on waivers, and yet they kept him around, and he ended up playing in Calgary, the second to last preseason game, even after he had been put on waivers and cleared, which was interesting and raised some eyebrows at the time. But one of the last guys to ultimately be jettisoned from the main group. So that probably told you something right then and there, that they had seen things that they liked and that they wanted to keep him and maybe, a little sugar for him just as he headed down to the minors. So not shocked. And the other part here is he's got 2 goals and an assist. He's got 3 points in 4 games for Abbotsford. And it's such a different Abbotsford team this year. Half the team's up here with the big league Canucks. Others have left. So you got to get used to some new names doing the bulk of the lifting. Kirill Kudryavtsev leads Abbotsford with 4 points in 4 games. But Joe LaBate's got 2. He's tied with Max Sasson, who, of course, scored his 2 early and then got the call-up. So, there's been a little bit of an offensive push at the American Hockey League level. I'm not surprised that when the call went down for a forward that it was Joe LaBate, whether it's the physical side that they're looking for, whether it's the fact that he's feeling pretty good about his game. And I would think with the fact that Hedl and Lekkerimäki are no-goes for certain, and we don't know about Brock Besser, this isn't a token call, but I think Joe LaBate's playing.
Oh, he's playing. Yeah, I think so. And if there's no Besser especially, but even with Besser, Jeff, I mean, is Adam Foote going to dumb this game down here on Tuesday and Thursday to extract points here, knowing that they are up against it right now with the current health of the team?
Well, he's going to have to lean on a lot of the guys that we just talked about. They're going to need Elias Pettersson to back up the performance that he had in Washington. They're going to need Garland, and they're going to need Kiefer Sherwood. They're going to need a little bit more from Jake DeBrusk, who scored his first in Chicago the other night on his birthday, but it's been a relatively slow and quiet start for Jake DeBrusk. You know that there's more there. Evander Kane, mixed results, obviously, through the first 6 games, but still looking for a little bit more of a presence offensively from him. And those are your guys. And the other part, too, and we talked about it Friday, and this can be looked at through a positive lens, is that Quinn Hughes has been fine, but Quinn Hughes has not been the best player on the ice.
No.
I don't think in any of the 6 games. There have been some moments, but, that's coming as well. And so maybe Quinn's able to, raise his level and everybody's level around him. Maybe the power play comes through for them. Whatever the case, they want to spoil this Artie party on Tuesday night. They don't want any part of Artur Silov's getting his measure of revenge here. And look, Silov's next victory, whenever it comes, will be his 3rd of the season. Of course, he had 2 last year as a member of the Canucks, NHL Canucks, and they were both over the Chicago Blackhawks. So he would love to get his 3rd win of the season already. He's got 1 over JT Miller and the New York Rangers. That was a shutout on opening night, and now he's likely to see the Canucks. I don't know that he's playing for certain, but I would think that they would give Artie the opportunity to make a statement. It's the Penguins' first game home after a West Coast road trip, and they shut out San Jose on Saturday. Tristan Jarry, BC boy, was in goal there. So do they come back and give Jarry an opportunity to back up his shutout, or do they go to the storyline that we all want? And that, of course, would be Artur Silov's in goal against the Canucks.
All right, I have a couple of new shooters on the longest period between games for the Vancouver Canucks.
Oh.
Caveat, this is Google's AI, and still isn't perfect. Brad, or as Google AI calls him, Brandon Richardson. Maybe that's your clue there.
That's right. Yeah, he had 2 stints. Yeah.
Brad Richardson goes 7 years, 3 months, 15 days between goals for the Vancouver Canucks. And then there's Yuri Slager, or Peter Slager, as Google AI is calling him, who plays for the Canucks in 94-95 and then again in 03-04. So it's 8+ years for Yuri Slager, Jeff, between games as a Vancouver Canuck.
All right. Well, those are certainly
good options.
So it would be on a short list, but we may have to continue to.
We're going to have to dig a little deeper here. Yeah. Yuri turning into Peter, Brad turning into Brandon. Those are clues.
The robots are not taking over just yet. The robots are not
coming for us.
They're coming, but just not quite yet. Marvelous stuff. Until Friday. Thank you, Jeff.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.